The third behavioral driver has to do with playing, prototyping, exploring things. And I'm talking mainly about ideas. And again, I know that scientific people say, well, that's all very well, but I don't have a lot of room for prototyping on what I do. Either I do the whole thing, or screws up or something, but, prototyping may work for manufacturing or something else, to create the new Walkman, but it does work for everybody. It's prototyping of ideas means challenging what you do and trying to see, could that done different? It's an ability to share unfinished ideas with our eyes that are totally unknown. I don't know about you, but I work with many companies, with many clients who would be horrified of that. And when people come to management and say, I have this idea and I think it could work with the customer, and the management says, well, what do you want to do? Well, I'm not totally sure it's about that. Oh, come back when you have a case study, a business case with the ROI, and then we'll see if there is a budget. There is no way to progress. But the third time that you are told not to come because it's still not unfinished, you haven't gone anywhere. You just broke up and said, I'm not bothered. And you have to create an environment where the unfinished ideas could be shared, and it's something that is accepted and desirable, even if there is still no business case for that, not application pending. Again, as scientists, don't switch off on that because you are thinking science and you are thinking processes in science. I'm thinking more ideas and management. All of you are in groups, in meetings, in teams, in structures, and that has nothing to do with science. It's the way we do things. You just happen to do science and I do something else, but the process and what we do is exactly the same. So don't switch off on that. And finally, the fourth behavioral driver is a very important one that has to do with reframing the questions. I said for many years that it sounds like one of these sound bites, but it's true. The most important management question is, what is the question? The most important management question is to say, what is the question? What is the real question here? We've been talking about lots of things and lots of processes and lots of ideas and questions. But what is the question? What is a way to say, what is that we are trying to solve? You will be surprised how many times you go back and say, actually, I didn't know that the question was that. I mean, I thought that the question was how we implement that. No, the question is not about implementing. Somebody else will say. The question is whether we should do that at all. And you can say, what do you mean at all? We've been here for 3 months assuming that we are going to do that. It's reframing the questions, coming back with, could we have a different question for that? And also try to put yourself with this what if on how somebody else would do it. Fascinating stuff for scientists and for other people who have a very structured way. You can say, well, we are going to do that. I know it doesn't come easy, but you can say, how would that, this is the problem, how would a doctor, medical doctor would deal with that? And you say, well, medical doctor, what does he have to do with that? It's a completely different problem. How would an engineer would deal with that? How would an artist would deal with that? How would an advertising agency would deal with that? Just by trying to put yourself on how other people could deal with something, you will find very good ideas and something that challenges the status quo and reframing the questions all the time. You can go as far as making this formal, and there are lots of creativity workshops and things like that people do that has to do with that, with having in the system people who are very alien to you, people who have nothing to do with science, people not just in your business, people who are, even your business people are too close to you. I'm not talking about your business people. I'm talking about an archaeologist. I'm talking about an anthropologist. People are hiring even these days, this kind of people. It sounds very esoteric, but it works very well because you are confronted all the time with how on earth a different mind will look at that problem. I know it's a luxury, and I know you could say, okay, I have a very busy time, I'm going to deal with other things. But just as an idea, think about it, because you may find from time to time the occasion to bring somebody, maybe to the team or maybe to the pod, and say, how would you deal with that? But if you choose that, for goodness sake, don't choose Peter or Joe and Mary or your friends, because you know already where they look. Choose somebody who is the most alien person you could think of that could bring you that, and also that you feel very anxious in the room and say, I don't even feel comfortable with this guy there. The more uncomfortable you feel, probably the better you are in terms of trying to find that completely different view. So, 4 behavioral drivers that you can translate. And in terms of skills now, to the next one, I said before that I wasn't going to talk about the series of skills, which we could go for hours on the kind of skills that are needed for innovation. I'm interested in some of the skills that I've been interested in the last 2 or 3 years, and that, one of my books is a little bit on that, on the skills that seem to be lacking in most of our companies, in these surplus societies and surplus companies that I said before. You see, I have this left brain and right brain. The left brain has to do with order, rationality, logic, analysis, is very verbal, and the right brain with intuition, creativity, see patterns, etc., etc. I know, for those of you with an interest in neurophysiology and the rest, that this is not very good science behind. But it just makes the point. I know that we don't believe that 100%, but imagine that was 90% or whatever percent. What we really have, and you have to agree with Mark, is that in our companies we seem to have a chronic left brain hypertrophy. We have millions of people that have to do with that. People who are rational, they have a lot of logic, they are very analytical, they are very verbal, and this is how we nurture our companies. Yes or no? I mean, I'm talking to an audience that probably will fall into the analytic category, so I'm told, because you are, again, it's another little stereotype, you are scientists, therefore you are analytic, as if somebody who is not scientist is not analytic. I can find you any analytic people you want in the business, in the commercial side, I'm dealing with them every single day, and they are as bloody analytic as you can be. So the fact that you are a scientist doesn't give you anything special, my dear friends. I was a scientist in my previous life. It's just nothing new. But okay, there's a little bit of probably condensation of that. What does it happen with that? What happens is, particularly in this, the analytical aspect, and I was going to say, I would put some money that if you have been putting some adverts to recruit people in the last 20 years, unless you've been in Mars or in sabbatical or somewhere else, you would say something that says analytical skills. Have you seen an advert that doesn't need analytical skills and communication skills? I don't see any that say, actually, no, we don't want analytical skills, and we don't want teamwork, and we don't want communication skills. No, we want more analytical skills. What happens with analytical skills? This. You know the old story of an elephant in the room and the blind people that go around and they say, I'm blind, so I'm touching that. I know what an elephant is. It's that, and it's a leg. Another touches the horse. Well, an elephant looks like that, and is like that. Everybody's seeing an elephant with the things that they can touch because they are blind. That's another one, and you know what it is. Well, what we have in our companies, and again, it's another sweeping generalization, but I'm taking the liberty of doing at this time of the day, is that we have so much analytical skills and so much analytical people that we have a fantastic skills on dissection, on anatomy. We can break any elephant in 200 different pieces. Any problem get dissected into the components, so we can eat it, and even we use the expression, let's cut the elephant in pieces, so the problem is too big, so let's cut it in pieces, because every piece then we can deal with. We are masters of the analysis and the dissection, and we have lost the ability to see that there is an elephant, that is called an elephant. That what it is, that no matter how much you cut it into 20 different pieces, it still is an elephant. We desperately need people in our companies that can see an elephant when there is an elephant. Then don't start saying, I'll dissect it for you in that, and then it gets treated in 20 different ways. We don't see elephants anymore. And by the way, it's nothing to do with the scientist education and things like that. I had this controversy with my friends in education, because I think it's education in general. My children are small, some of them, and they are in education. You can see all the time the analytical thing primes. You have to dissect things in pieces. When putting things together, putting all the pieces of the elephant together to see, actually, is an elephant, it's not there. It's just not there. It's not there at all.